is today's workshop with Spells Writing Lab on this kind of, well, the sun's coming out now on Thursday. Gonna wait for some people to join us. So I hope everyone's ready today to channel your inner supervillain, because we are continuing our tribute to the Philadelphia Science Festival. You can see I still am wearing my, oh no, it's coming off, my I Love Science pin from a previous year at the Philadelphia Science Festival. Hi Ian, it's good to see you. So yeah, we're doing our tribute to the Philadelphia Science Festival that was supposed to take place this week. And so we're doing some of the activities we would have been doing at our booth for you guys here virtually. If you're joining us, we're going to be doing a few science demonstrations before we get to the writing. So if you'd like to try to do some of those at home, one thing you can do is maybe get a couple of refrigerator magnets. I find the ones that have kind of like, that aren't flat, that have like a little bit of a raised part of magnet are that work the best. You could also get a glass of water. If you have a glass with kind of those crystal type shapes on them, that will work really well. But any kind of glass of water filled 2/3 up. Ask your parents first because we don't want to make a mess wherever you are, especially near a computer. So you might want to do this in a separate area from where your computer or laptop or mobile device is. A flashlight if you have one. You can also try using the flash from the back of a camera, you know, the light there. Or you can do it in the sun if the sun comes out today. So you don't have to do this activity indoors. And then I actually don't have the materials for the third demonstration we're doing today. I have a Newton's cradle that we're going to use to demonstrate one of the supervillain powers. But if you have marbles and a ruler with a groove in it or something similar to that, then you can do a simple demonstration at home that's very similar to what I will be doing later. It looks like we have a good number of people joining us. So the other materials you'll need today are a pencil, as always, as well as a download of these printouts. You don't have to print them out. If you need to look at them on your device, that's fine. And then we have some templates for graphic novels that we're going to be working on after we do these other activities. So if you're unable to print these out, that's okay. You can just draw your own boxes for your graphic novels later. So now that we're getting started, I think we have a good number of people. So hi, Itzel, it's good to see you again. Make sure and shoot us a little message in the comments letting us know who's here, and if you have any questions while we're doing this. So for those of you guys who are here with us on Tuesday, you already know that a lot of superpowers from comic books and movies and other media are actually inspired by science. Hi Ezra and Audra, it's good to see you guys. So they're inspired by science. Now, on Tuesday, during the last workshop, we demonstrated some of the most famous superheroes' powers using things that we could find at home, like Velcro and just things that are heavy in bags to represent Superman, the Velcro to represent Spider-Man climbing up the walls, things like that. Today, we're going to become evil. Now, I know if you don't want to be evil most of the time, that's okay. Just temporarily put yourself in the mindset of a villain, because the best way to fight your enemy is to get to know them, right? So even if you like to be a good guy, you can still plan on understanding and getting into the mindset of a villain. So today we're going to talk about a few different supervillains, and actually, coincidentally, a lot of them are mutants from the X-Men. I don't know why, but a lot of the villains in the X-Men tend to have some scientific basis for their powers, more so than some of the other villains in the Marvel and DC worlds. So we thought also they happen to be the ones that are the easiest to kind of demonstrate at home. So with that said, we're going to start off with Magneto. Now, he's one of my favorites. If you've seen some of the X-Men movies, you might know that he's not always completely bad. He has a good point. He's trying to protect the mutants, but he often is kind of like, takes it a little too far. Now, Magneto, as you might guess from his name, is a mutant with the power to control magnetic fields and generate them with his body and his mind. So he uses magnetic fields to control metal objects, levitate himself, create force fields, even use telepathic mind control and generate electromagnetic pulses to push people away. All of those are based on real science. Magnetism is produced by the motion of electric charges that are resulting in attractive and repulsive, so positive and negative forces between objects. Now, you might be familiar with a magnet. I have one here, and you can see it has an N and an S on it. Those stand for north and south. Now, each magnet has a north pole and a south pole, except for I pointed the wrong direction. A south pole and a north pole. Now, what's interesting about magnets is if you have two magnets, these are both north magnets at the end. I got to figure out how to put those in front. If you have two magnets that are north pole, watch what happens. Look, can you guys see that? Let me do it really close to the screen. When I put them close together, do you see how I'm not doing that? That's actually the magnets moving them away from each other because they do not want to be together. So the same pole, the north poles, or the two south poles of magnets, they don't want to be together. They push away. However, I always like to point out, if you've ever heard the phrase opposites attract, that is true when it comes to magnets. So a north pole and a south pole, they want to go together. See how they go together? No problem. So, if we are going to be pushing this superhero car, which is Iron Man, and it has a magnet that I've glued right here, and it has a north end, which one of these do I want to push it with? A north pole, sorry, it's a south pole, or a north pole magnet? Does anyone have any ideas? If I want to push it away from me. I'm going to wait a second to see if anyone can tell me which kind of magnet I should use. A north pole or a south pole to push a north pole away. Any ideas? So I'm going to guess, so let's try that south pole. So we have a north pole here, and let's see, I'm going to tilt this down so that you guys can see what I'm working with. Let's see, if I have a south pole magnet and I use this, did that push away? Nope, it attracted, right? So remember, we say opposites attract, so the two opposites want to come together, so it actually sucks it up. Now, if I want to push it, we're going to try using this north pole magnet. So this is a north one. Let's see what happens now. Can you guys see that? So it's pushing it because two norths, they want to stay away. So like poles, two that are the same, want to push away from each other. Opposites attract, right? So that is how the magnets work. Now, if you want to try this at home and you don't happen to have big magnets like I have, because we do the Science Festival, you can get refrigerator magnets. Now, these are the two that work the best for me. So I'm going to show you guys how I can make this magnet move just by using this magnet. So watch what happens. So I'm going to turn it this way. So keep an eye on this magnet right here. See how I'm making it move? That's because they're opposite. So as I get this one close to this one, it tries to flip over, but the magnet is too heavy, the part of it that's attached. So see how it's moving? So you can try to find a magnet in your house that will push another magnet. Now, as I said earlier, I had to look around, and the ones that were really flat, a lot of times they don't have their poles as distinct because they're too thin. So the thicker magnet, so you can see how thick that one is. Sometimes the round magnets are pretty good for this. So see if you can find magnets that are a little bit thicker And just try them. I actually tried probably 6 or 7 magnets before I found some that actually did this well. Okay? So now let's think about Juggernaut. Now Juggernaut is also a villain who's part of the X-Men, and he has a special power, which is that once he starts moving in a direction, he cannot be stopped. His powers make him unstoppable by changing how his momentum works. So basically, the character who became Juggernaut was Cain Marko, and he came across this mystical Sidorak gem. Now, that part is totally fiction, right? There isn't a gem that can suddenly make you unstoppable. However, the idea that your momentum can keep going is actually based in science. So basically, an object that is at rest, and we talked about this a little bit with Thor's hammer. We talked about inertia and how the rotation, the angular momentum wanted to keep it in one place when we did the gyroscope. So if an object is at rest, it wants to stay at rest. If you have an object that is in motion, it wants to keep going in motion. Now on Earth, we have things like, we have other forces that add a little, change to this, where we have gravity, we have air pressure, we have wind, we have friction. We have all these forces that kind of slow down your momentum and make it hard to move. You can think about this if you've ever gone to the beach and walked in the sand, and you think about how your feet sink and it's so much harder to move. It slows you down compared to if you're running on something really firm, right, like pavement. So same thing, in our world, on Earth, these forces kind of slow down the momentum. But if those forces were not acting on the object would just keep moving. It would want to keep going. Now, the Newton's cradle is an example of this, because if you look down here, let me tilt this just a little bit this way, there we go. So when I pull one of these balls and make it start moving, it's going to want to keep moving, but it's going to run into this ball. And I wonder what's going to happen, because it wants to keep moving, but this ball stops it, so where is that momentum going to go? So as you can see, the momentum and energy from the ball on the outside that hits this ball, it comes here and it transfers because it wants to keep moving, but it can't right now, so it transfers through here, and this ball is finally free to move, and so it moves. And then it comes back and does the same thing in the other direction. So basically the energy and momentum is traveling through these to keep going. So that's kind of similar to, that kind of demonstrates how Juggernaut has this Sidorak gem that helps him, once he starts moving, it helps prevent all of those external forces from acting on him, and he can keep going and nothing can stop him. Even if he runs into walls, if he runs into people, if he runs into the Hulk, he can just keep going. So once again, this ball wants to keep going like Juggernaut, so it's going to go. And now, again, this is on Earth, so there is gravity slowing these down, there is friction as they hit each other that's slowing them down a little bit, but they still go for a pretty long time, right? And this even works where if you pull more than one, it'll transfer that amount of momentum, because it's the same amount of momentum has to be transferred to the other side. Okay, so now we're going to talk about our third superpower. Now, Mystique is also one of the X-Men villains. Now, she is a shapeshifter who has the ability to manipulate the colors of her skin to match her new shape. It's kind of similar to a chameleon's ability to change its skin color. Now, if you remember, light moves through space in waves, right? The colors of the rainbow combine together to make white light, but each of those colors has a different wavelength, which you can see on our handout today. Do you notice how the different colors, and they happen to be in order of the rainbow? I wonder why. But basically, we have, you notice how the ones up at the top, the red one, has a wider wavelength. The one down here, violet, has a much more narrow wavelength, and they kind of go in between. So white light, like the light you see from the sun or the light you see from your light, that is all containing all of those different wavelengths of light. Now, when those wavelengths travel through something like a prism or a glass of water, they will slow down. And when they slow down, they're going to slow down at different rates of speed. And that's what's going to cause those wavelengths, those different color wavelengths, to separate out into a rainbow. So for example, after it rains, what's in the air that might help bend the light and make those different wavelengths separate out into a rainbow? There might be still water droplets up in the clouds, right? So sometimes if it's been raining, or if it is raining and you turn your back to the sun, you look and you can see the way that the water droplets are separating out the different wavelengths of light into a rainbow. Now for this one, I'm going to unhook this. Excuse me while I do this. And then I'm going to do this. And I may have just messed this up, we'll see. And I want you to look really carefully down here. I'm going to use this flashlight. And can you see that? Oh, there's a nice rainbow. Do you see that rainbow? So that's just, I have a flashlight shining through my water, and it's creating a rainbow. And I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my camera. This is not my best camera work. Can you see that rainbow? Oh, there it is. It's really pretty. Chameleons, just recently, scientists discovered that rather than using just pigment to change the colors of their skin, they actually rely on 2 layers of iridophores, which are pigment cells that reflect light. So basically, they're not regular pigment like what makes our skin color, whatever color your skin is. These are actual special ones that have guanine crystals. They have little crystals that act like prisms inside these layers of skin. And they reflect different colors of light depending on how far they are from each other. Hi, it's Ella. I'm so glad that you're back. So glad. It looks like people are starting to find the new live feed. So we're just talking about how chameleons, rather than having regular pigments, they actually have 2 layers of little crystals that are basically like prisms that reflect different colors of light depending on how close or far apart they are. So the same way we were able to use this glass of water that made everything go horribly wrong, the glass of water to separate the colors into a rainbow, these little prismatic cells actually reflect different colors of light depending on how far away they are from each other. So for example, when they're very close together, they reflect short wavelengths like blue, which is why mixed with the natural yellow pigment of the chameleon skin, that ends up making them look green when they're all calm and on just normal, like in normal locations like a leaf. However, when those layers of prismatic cells, those crystals, move further apart, the longer wavelength of red light is reflected instead. And that's when they can start turning orange or red or yellow. So they end up showing like those brighter colors, those warmer colors. So that scientists only discovered these cells about 5 years ago. So it's very new science. Even I only learned about it yesterday. So Mystique's ability to change her skin color to precisely mimic whomever or whatever she's shape-shifting into might be the result of a mutation that gives her control over iridophore layers like that. So here is a picture of her. You can see how she can go from a normal human skin tone into her natural skin tone. And again, maybe her ability, especially since, as we notice, she actually has kind of scaly skin, almost like a reptile or amphibian. So maybe that is supposed to be a nod to a chameleon's ability to change its color. So now that we've talked about some of these scientific supervillains, now the time is near to actually start creating your story. So if you were with us on Tuesday, then you can use your hero and supervillain that you created then. If you were not here on Tuesday, you can go back and download the template for that trading card, that hero and villain trading card, from the Science of Superheroes lesson, and create your superhero and your supervillain, and make sure that they have some kind of science inspiration. Now, once you've done that, and you may have some ideas, maybe looking at some of these science-based superheroes might have given you new ideas to add to or change some of your supervillain or superhero properties, some of their powers, feel free to make changes. Once you've figured out exactly who your superhero is, and I know in the last chat, Zella mentioned, I think, what hers was, and I didn't have time to read it because that was when everything was going haywire, but it sounded really interesting. Oh yeah, your superhero is named Geode, right? And has earth powers. I love it. I especially love Geode because I can really kind of imagine. I love the inside, like geodes. They're kind of like ugly rocks on the outside, but then you open them up and they're beautiful crystals. I'd really be interested to see kind of how you draw that character and what kind of symbols you use to represent them. And your supervillain is called Tornado and can control the air and wind. I like that. That's really cool. That'd be really interesting because it's kind of two different earth forces, and seeing how they kind of, weather versus like the actual, rocks in the earth. So the geology. So I really like that. So once you figure out who your superhero and supervillain are, then you're going to think about what kind of story you're going to tell. You should have figured out what your villain's evil plot would be in the trading card. So think about how are you going to tell the story of that adventure. Are you going to use the perspective of the villain and show kind of some sympathy for them, why maybe they're not completely wrong? Are you going to have it be more black and white, where good is good and evil is evil? Maybe they want the same thing, but they maybe they actually are working towards the same goal, but have different opinions about how extreme to follow that goal. So then you're going to figure out how to tell your story, and you can use these panels in any order. You can draw your own. You can even do things where, like, you can print out multiple copies. Maybe you want your story to take more than 3 pages. You can print out more copies of these panels. We just gave you these as kind of a guide, and you're going to start telling your story in graphic novel form. Now, personally, I am not an artist. I am a stick figure drawer at best. But I can make some really fun, great graphic novels just by using my stick figures. So don't feel bad if you're not a professional artist. Not all of us are. Really think about how you're going to tell your story. Try not to put too many words. Try to use some visuals to show your story. Use the dialogue between the characters, the things that they say to each other. But also answer some of those questions. Like, what is your villain's evil plot? How does your superhero find out about it? How will each of their powers and weaknesses be important as the action builds to their final confrontation? Who will end up as the winner? Do you want to reveal information that makes your reader sympathize with the villain? So think about these things and plan out your story and start drawing it. And just have fun with it. And if you prefer to write your story instead of doing a graphic novel, feel free. Just get some lined paper or some blank paper or type it into a computer and tell the story. I just thought that, especially since we were doing kind of comic book superheroes and villains, it was kind of fun to try that comic book panel style. Does anyone have any questions? Again, I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties. I do want to thank all of the parents who filled out our survey about summer camp. It's just helping us get an idea of what families are looking for with summer camp and how comfortable or uncomfortable they feel about doing something in person and what their needs are if we do something virtual. If you haven't already filled that out, you can find it on our Facebook page. You can find a link to that. We really appreciate your feedback. It's really interesting because we can guess all we want about what you guys want, and until we actually see, we don't know for sure. Also, if you really like what we're doing and want to support spells, you can go to our website and there's a Donate Now button. We appreciate it, everything. But again, as I always say, really, you can also kind of pay us for doing this by sharing some of your work on our page or in a private message. We just really love to see kind of what you're creating. I loved seeing what Itzella created as their superhero and supervillain. So, definitely share those ideas with us. We love them. And keep writing. And if you have any questions that we didn't answer, we'll get to those in the comments. But yeah, thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you so much for rejoining us after the, rainbow kind of turned us into another dimension where all you could see was my neck. And hopefully that won't happen next time. We'll be back on Tuesday morning at 11, same place. Hopefully fewer technology issues. And we'll see you then, and have a nice weekend. Thank you so much.